Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the award winning recovery podcast, Getting the Herd. And we're doing it a little differently today. I'm your host, producer, slash guy behind everything, except my guy over here who thinks he knows how to run everything better. So we're gonna talk about that. I know, right? Welcome to another episode of the podcast. Nathan Mitchell, and today we are talking to my coachee Nick O, we'll call him.
Yeah, that's a
And
good
Nick has been,
anonymous.
Nick's been here for about a month, right?
40 days now,
Has
yeah.
it been 40 days?
Yeah.
40 days, 40 nights. Isn't there like a movie
Yeah,
or
it's a
something?
flood.
Yeah, it's a flood.
Mm.
So Nick, I'm doing this stuff for the first time.
Oh, yeah?
So like there's this sense of overwhelming dread that I'm gonna
Yeah.
destroy stuff.
Stand by for technical difficulties.
Stand by for
Okay.
technical difficulties. So
All right.
welcome to the McShin Foundation, Nick. I
Thank
keep
you.
wanting to call you O.
You can call me O, Mr. O. That's
Nah, it sounds weird.
fine. I'm not going to say how I remember or how I get people to remember my last name because it's anonymous, right? We can't say that. So,
You can't say what?
my last name.
Nah, you can say whatever you want,
Oh, okay.
except for the F word. Too many S words. We
Okay,
want to
so
stay PG-13.
my name is like, it sounds like Ia at the end. It starts with an O. So I like to remind people by saying that I have oral diarrhea.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So Nick, welcome.
Good way to start, right?
Yeah.
We're off to a good
So
start.
Nick, welcome. Tell us, how did you find the McShin Foundation? What brought you here?
Ooh, so I started recovery about 6-7 weeks ago. I got to another place that wasn't the best fit for me, and I decided to leave. And I had a little bit to drink, and ended up smacking my head, going to the hospital, and the place I was at wouldn't let me back in. So I naturally thought of this place, and it was on the referrals. They gave me a list of a bunch of different places to go because the place that I was at before wouldn't let me back. And I had been here for the spiritual service on Sundays. And then when I saw the name, I said, oh, let's call them. And I'm glad I did.
So wait,
It's a
so you
much
had
better
been here
fit.
for the spiritual service on
Yes,
Sunday
I did.
with the Healing Place. You can say it.
Yeah, okay. So with the Healing
Yeah.
Place guys, they said, come over here. I had a friend that
Oh.
played keys, and Arnold and Chris. Yeah, we're playing on the spiritual service, piano and.
Okay, so you were at another another organization,
Yeah.
recovery community organization.
Mhm.
Things didn't quite work out over there, so
No,
you had
yeah.
experience here through our spiritual service,
Yeah,
and you came to the McShin Foundation.
I had a good time here, and I thought, this would be a good fit. Familiarity, of course. New things are always scary, and I was, aware of where this was, and thought it was a nice area, much more
Hmm.
comfortable fit for me.
New things are always scary. You say that.
Yeah.
That's very relatable for me and for a lot of people. What do
Yeah.
you do? What do you do to handle things that are new and scary?
Well, I sort of like to try not to worry. Fear is a big part of my life and a big part of everyone's life. I think it's the driving
Let's
force.
work on you.
Okay. Well,
Yeah, let's work
yeah,
on you.
for general humanity, I think fear is a big part of their lives.
So we went from other people
Yeah,
to just general
just
humanity.
everybody,
Nah.
just getting it out there.
But let's
Yeah.
let's
So
let's keep it
me,
on
myself,
you.
and
Yeah.
I
How do you? How
don't
does
like
Nick?
to feel afraid.
How does
So
Nick
I
work on
tend
that?
to try to remain ambiguous and like don't worry about what's gonna happen.
Ambiguous.
Yeah, like
That's a
I
big 50
don't.
cent word. Can you
it's-
define that for some
Yeah,
people?
like I'm not either positive or negative. I'm just like whatever happens, happens.
Mm,
And I find that the best results come when I'm open to anything.
okay.
I just jump in some things, and some things I'm very cautious going into. I get caught up in the details, planning for something.
Mm.
Sometimes I just go in blind, and that works too. It just depends on how I feel. Yeah.
So fear moving into a new organization,
Hmm.
and you came over here anyway. And um, we're
Yeah.
talking very abstractly, but I want specifics. How does Nick Odria,
Mm.
how does Nick handle
That's a question.
fear?
Question I ask myself every day.
Yeah.
I don't handle it well.
Mm.
I tend to, over medicate when I get caught up in the fear. And I try now, without medicine, to put my head in a good place of love. I think fear is the opposite of love. I'm not sure. I'm thinking of the triangle of obsession, which
Mm.
something I like to refer back to a lot.
Well, sure. Explain that if you would.
I'm gonna try. I
Okay.
think that it's three parts, each of a dual opposite nature. So fear and love of how we deal with the present, and then the past. It's resentment and acceptance.
Mm.
And for the future, no, future is fear. Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know. You might know better than me.
Mm. I know
Mm,
of the triangle of obsession,
yeah.
but I can't recite it.
Yeah, that was something I had a conversation with Moses about, not the biblical
Yeah.
figure, but somebody named Moses. Yeah,
Not the big biblical. You're not
yeah, of
okay.
a certain similar nature, but um, yeah, he brought that up to me, and it was very relevant to my recovery. Yeah, it's definitely been a tough journey. It's the first time in 10 years I've been just without any foreign substance for more than like a week.
40 days.
Yeah, 40
40
days
days
now.
now. That's that's interesting. I had a conversation with somebody who I won't, put on blast because he's
Mm,
not here to talk about it. But I talked to somebody this morning who is God willing about to come up on a year, and it's the first time he's had this much time ever.
mm,
And I've known him since I got here, since I got into recovery. Known him
yeah.
s- almost as long as I've been here, actually. And so, and funny because when I met him initially, he's not a anyway, without going into his story, he's just
Kind
a
of
person who's about
confused.
to celebrate a year. And when I was talking to him, like I remember when I met him early on, he had several months into recovery at the time, and I sort of put, um, I looked at his recovery and I thought, oh, that was very attractive to me. That recovery was, and so to be in the position I'm in now and see his recovery journey, from where I had sort of a where that attraction into the program for me was important, watching his journey through recurrence and how he's gone through that and how he continues now at this point to be growing in his recovery. I love that I've had that ability to see that and experience that and hopefully help a little bit.
Yeah, it's a general kind of good thing to do in recovery. I think look at somebody that's a little bit ahead of you and try to follow, hold on to their coattails, get a good guide through the steps, if not just the guide through something
Okay, well, we talk about steps, but we don't need to talk steps. What
Steps,
are
steps,
steps? What are we
not the
talking
12
steps here?
steps, but the
Ah, okay.
steps of, general kind of recovery.
So what are
And
the steps of general recovery
well,
according
first you got to
to
detox. I think that's
who does?
That's a great. I do.
Okay.
I had to detox
Yeah.
and get my head in a right space. Like the place I was at before, I wasn't really able, even though I did retain some of the information. I wasn't really receiving it, if that makes sense. I wasn't open to really applying it and considering it. I was very hesitant or resistant. Yeah, let's say that.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, I'm going through detox. I'm not feeling well, and
So you're going through detox. You're not
very
feeling well physically or mentally.
restless,
Yeah.
irritable, and
And discontent.
discontent.
I know that language.
Mhm.
So in that sort of situation, here you are suddenly, um, having to move from one organization to another.
Getting to move.
Okay,
I was very
okay.
happy to come
Getting to
here.
move.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I remember in the beginning you were very keen to want to go back, a month
Yeah.
later and sort of look
Hmm.
at me, I'm doing well. I don't think that's how you phrased it, but that's
No.
certainly how it came off to me
Okay.
when you were, and so I may be wrong on that. And please correct me
Well,
if,
we are judged by our actions and the exterior, not our interior intentions, right,
yeah,
Nathan?
we
Mm.
judge ourselves by our intentions while the world judges us by our
Yes.
actions.
Hmm.
I tend to like that though.
Yeah.
It helps
Me
keep
too.
me honest and accountable.
Yeah.
So,
You gave that to me. You're a good coach. You taught that to me.
well, I shared that, and
Yeah.
and for anybody who's listening, that's from the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, um, uh, and I like that particular part because I so often even today probably I'm sure at some point I'm like, but I meant to do this and I meant to do that and I meant to, and that doesn't really do anything. That doesn't help any situation. So I want to ask again because I want to circle back because I think this is important, and I don't think you're I think there's a piece here that we've talked about that maybe maybe you're not thinking of when I ask this question. So I kind of want to know more about what you, Nick O,
Hmm.
does when he's faced with fear, uncertainty, and the
Drugs.
reason I'm asking this, and I know I'm badgering the point a little bit, is because it's so relatable to me. The
Mm.
conversations we've had have been so
Oh, I
relatable to me.
got it. I got it.
Because when
Thank
I'm full of fear and doubt, and I regress to self-destructive behaviors. And to yeah,
4 syllables.
well, I mean, go for it.
Overthinking. Is that 4 syllables? I don't know.
Overthinking, yeah, yeah,
Overanalyzing everything. Yeah,
yeah.
I
My
do
my
that
mom calls
way
that
too much.
analysis paralysis.
Analysis paralysis. I like that.
I do too,
Mm.
and she
I
may
have
have
to
come
write
up
that
with that.
down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, analyze to paralyze. That's
Mm.
something, but I think analysis paralysis. But that's not. That is where
That's
I'm
careful.
going.
Careful there. You're throwing me some meatballs for a good joke, and I'm trying not to to do that.
Well, I don't
Really
want you to be
serious.
anybody. I don't want. Who wants to listen to Sirius? Do you want to
I don't
listen to
know.
Sirius?
Some people might.
Well, so when I am filled with fear, doubt, insecurity,
Mhm.
I tend to regress to some of the self-destructive behaviors that have not served me in the past. And this is Nathan. This is my experience. And so when I relate and I hear about you and you tell me your story,
Mhm.
I hear specific things that come out of that, and I hear things that no longer serve me
Mm.
that I still do, and I see and I watch you struggle with. And one of
Yeah.
those things is sarcasm.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yes.
And for me, I'm
Yeah,
talking
for
Nathan. I'm
sure.
not talking you. This
Okay. Yeah.
isn't putting a
Yeah.
sarcasm, snippy with people. And I've been doing that a lot lately. Like I've
Mm.
been filled with a lot of self-doubt and growing in my job, growing in my personal and professional lives,
Yeah.
life,
Multiple lives.
love,
Sure.
life. There's a verb in there somewhere. But that wouldn't be a verb. That would be a noun, wouldn't it? Yeah, professional life.
You're overthinking it, Nathan.
See. Yeah, self just things that don't serve me.
Yeah, I like that.
So, and that's it's like it's kind of nice. It's refreshing. I love working with people who are fresh and brand new in recovery because I get to
Mm.
constantly remember
It's
things or realize that, oh wait, hold on, I still got this whole big old mess right
fresh
back here to
reminder.
work on. So,
Yeah.
what do you think about what I'm saying here?
What you just said reminds me of not a quote, but something that some author I like a lot touches on. That this fresh kind of perspective. This author, philosopher, wrote a bunch of books, and one of them, I can't remember which, he talks about how it's best if you arrive at the conclusions he's talking about naturally without having to read or be taught them.
Mm,
And that what you said reminds me of that and myself too, where I do feel like a lot of, like, for example, the 12 steps are great things to live by, not just in recovery. I think that I see a lot of those steps being some things I've done in the past or tried to do it at some degree, maybe
mm,
not with the exact angle or degree of intention or follow through,
mm.
committing to it.
Follow through.
Yeah, that's a good thing, and not just
Follow
in your
through.
golf swing, but in
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
I'm a serious procrastinator, and I do not
Really?
finish a lot of projects. Yeah,
Really?
yeah. It's hard for me to finish something and say, "Yeah, that's good." I'm a
What gets you?
perfectionist. Yeah.
Ah, analysis
Mm.
paralysis strikes again.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
very detrimental to my recovery and my life in general.
Hmm.
I think that
Who tells you that it's detrimental to your life?
myself and
Hmm.
one of the voices in my head.
Yeah.
Um, I guess to simplify it, we always like to simplify it down to two things:
We always
opposing
do.
good and bad. We as people, I think,
Oh, oh,
assign good or bad
oh.
in the middle. I think not everything is black and white though, but for this, we'll say that yeah, there's things that are good for my growth and things that are bad for my growth, just like for my
Hmm.
recovery.
How do you determine what's good and what's bad?
Does it simplify it again? Does it
Uh,
spread love? Is it a positive force and not only my interior kind of existence, but outward too?
hmm.
Am I being nice? Do I have to say that if it's not a nice thing? Sometimes I do, but there's that gray area. There's a big wide gray area, and
What?
there's
Wait, we're sort of going in circles here. Wait a
yeah, I do
second.
that a
There's a
lot too.
gray area for. So you bring up an interesting topic because there's a certain is a philosophy that I like to abide by, that I feel better about myself when I'm abiding by it.
And what's that?
And when speaking, and
Mm,
it's not something, it's one of those things that goes right out the window when I'm full of self-doubt, frustration, growing, whatever. Whenever I'm stuck, there are certain things, and I can see when certain things are going from, my the way I'm interacting with people. I can say, I've learned about myself, and I recognize that I can't always, fix how my I react,
mm,
inside. I can work to change how I respond. And that takes work. That
yeah.
takes a lot of work. And it takes me identifying solutions and running it by people who have been through that experience and can say, have you thought about this? Or are you giving yourself enough
Yeah.
grace? That's my, I
It's
just had this
hard
conversation. It
sometimes.
is hard
Yeah.
sometimes. And one of the things I like to think about when I'm speaking is three different things. Is it necessary?
Mm.
Well, first, is it honest? And I
First
think,
step.
well, let's get out of step work here.
Okay.
Is it honest? Because I think a good majority, most majority of what I say is honest these days. I'm pretty good about that. Is it necessary? Whew,
It's a lot of
there's
it.
a
Yeah.
lot,
Mm,
and is it
mm.
kind? I think I'm fairly
Yeah.
good about the
That's good.
kind part, but that goes out the window really quick when I'm
Mm.
frustrated, because and so
Yeah.
I like using that tool. I like talking about that tool. I like sharing that tool with others so that others use that tool and remind
Mm.
me about it when I get myself frustrated. Because the key, I think, for me, in Nathan's little humble opinion for recovery, is that I'm not going to overnight change exactly everything I am and make myself
No.
perfect. I'm going to give myself
Takes time.
tools, learn. I'm not going to give myself tools.
Mm.
I'm going to gain tools from the people around
Mm.
me
You
who have
learn.
gone through these things and give me tools to get out of the situation so I don't have to get stuck.
Yeah. That reminds me, and this is kind of off topic, but everyone brings something, valuable to the table, no matter your background, education, the way you talk, what language, whatever. You can learn from everybody, and I think that's the big point here. Necessarily, things being necessary, that's shit. That's hard for me to do. Sorry.
You're fine.
I can't really, decide what's, not necessary because I don't know. I feel like if you want to get down to the bare essentials, like, yeah, what you said is good
Right.
to be, kind and honest.
Well, if
But
I don't know what's
pause, like when
necessary,
I get angry, like
yeah.
that goes out the window
Oh,
sometimes. I
yeah.
can't pause when agitated all the time. I just immediately react.
Well, there's a difference between reacting and responding.
Yes, that's what you were saying.
Yeah.
And responding, pause when agitated, think of your reaction and respond, in maybe a more appropriate way.
Yeah. Well, so this brings up a question. If I don't know what's best for me,
Hmm.
how do I know what's best for others? It says in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, if we're going
Ooh,
back to that,
yeah.
it's
Back
better
to
that I
that.
don't give advice,
Mm, yeah.
And I like that. I never give advice.
Just share your experience. Yeah.
I and anybody who's listening right now who knows me, there was just it's a few years ago I made a conscious decision never to
Mm,
give advice. I give strong suggestions, and I'll look at you funny if I think you're going to do something absolutely crazy and insane, but I'm not going to
mm.
give you advice. I'll give you some suggestions. You know, and
Suggestions.
I
Yeah.
that's probably just a little bit of hair splitting right there.
Yeah.
And I also know that if I don't know what's best for me, but I know other people who have done things like what I'm doing,
Hmm.
then I can refer and talk to them and work with a network of people.
Yeah, and that's for
Yeah.
you to look up to or to find, share experiences and learn, from others ahead of you in recovery or whatever you're trying to, get better at. I think we can all find something to improve on in our lives, and generally for me, I think that it's very difficult to talk, keep it on me. Yes, that's easy, but to
Is
reach
it?
people, not easy, but easier than it's not super difficult, to
Okay.
talk in the eye with the words, but to sort of it's difficult for me to address maybe a specific person that I'm trying to help while not giving them advice, just making suggestions.
Mm.
Like if I was sharing in a group, I'm going to share an experience that I think maybe some others might have, some interest in and share that common experience. But it's up to them to take it. You can bring them up to the threshold of your experience and
Right.
your understanding. You can't give them your understanding though. It's
Right.
like you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
Yeah.
But if the horse is thirsty, it should drink.
Well, and that's up to the horse, to
Yeah,
make
it's,
that
it's up to the
decision.
horse. Yeah.
And I like that because there's a certain thing that I'm learning in recovery is that I don't have to have all the answers to
Yeah.
everything.
Mm.
And even when I have the answers, I don't have to give everybody the
Yeah,
answers.
like you can't. That's what I was saying. Like
Well,
you
I
can't
can't.
give them your
No.
understanding. You can like
But
share.
what I mean by that is that sometimes,
Oh, don't
sometimes
even try. I get what you're saying.
well,
Yeah.
but the people on listening right now don't know
Mhm.
what I'm talking about. So, sometimes like I do have to step back and I have to just let people do the things that they do.
Mhm.
Actually, I always have to do that.
Yeah.
I always have to do that.
Experience is the
Uh,
best teacher, right?
well, it's not even a matter of experience is the best teacher. If I come up to you and I say, and I just start telling you what I think,
Yeah, you're gonna piss me off.
probably,
Mhm.
probably, yeah.
Yeah.
And even if it's not advice,
Mm.
there's
Just making a
suggestions.
suggestion. Like if you came up to me and said,
Yeah.
"Here's a suggestion, Nick."
Because
Yeah,
when
we're already off to a bad start.
we are, and if I'm already filled with self-doubt,
Mhm.
negativity, don't know what I'm doing, and then I've got somebody over here
Mm.
throwing a whole bunch of stuff at me, which makes it feel like I'm being questioned about what I'm doing. And then now I feel worse. This is Nathan. This is Nathan. This is Nathan's coaching. I'm the coachee. You're the coacher.
Yeah,
Um,
I
y-
definitely know. Yeah, I felt that
yeah.
way a lot, especially my first 2 weeks in recovery. I'm not powerless over my addictions. What do you mean? I chose to come here. I chose to
Right.
to get help. It's not my
Yeah.
best thinking that got me here. I knew it was right. I just chose the wrong thing to do all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think that what you're saying, it is hard to keep it on you, but
What is the first step in a 12-step fellowship? Do you know it off the top of your
the
head?
principle honesty.
What
The
no, no,
first step, we admitted we were powerless over our addictions and our lives became
and our
unmanageable.
lives have become unmanageable.
Yeah.
I when I first heard that, when I first heard that here, it was very, very easy for me to identify with the unmanageability part. I
Hmm.
was surrounded by the consequences of my
Mm,
unmanageability. And
consequences.
the consequences, I had a hard time. And I think this is still where I get tripped up because the only thing my recovery teaches me the only thing that I need to do to stay sober, if that is my goal, and I
Hmm.
mean stay sober. I don't mean be in recovery because I think there's a distinction there.
Yeah, there
Nathan's
is.
opinion,
Mhm.
but to stay sober, the only thing I need to do is practice the first step perfectly. And I do that every morning. I literally think, you know what, today I'm going to set the intention. I'm not going to do self destructive stuff. Or when I do, but it was easy for me to see the consequences of my unmanageability. I was not convinced about my powerlessness over drugs and alcohol. It was a
Yeah.
huge and it still becomes the thing that I consider. It's like, well, now I've got almost 4 years at this point.
Mm.
Maybe a martini. Well, not martini for me. It would be a Manhattan for me, but or a scotch,
Good
or
choice.
maybe a glass of wine with dinner would be all right. And I'm like, what are you talking about, Nathan? You know? And so it is really,
Yeah.
really, really important for me to not only recognize that my brain is still gonna do try to trip me up,
Mhm.
trick it out. That's not what I'm trying to say, is it?
Yeah,
That's
you
a
don't want to
totally
say
different.
that.
That's a
That's
totally
yeah.
different game.
No,
Let's
we're
just
not doing
strike
that
that.
here.
We'll put that. We'll fix that in. We'll fix that in.
It's
Yeah, in editing. But
getting the herd midnight edition.
after hours. Um,
But no, I get what you're saying. Consequences for me, weren't that serious. I wasn't forced here, but I can definitely sympathize with that. A lot of people, I think, myself included, just want the consequences to stop at first.
yeah.
Don't want to deal with the bad things, but they still think that, I can. Like my reservation at first was, oh, in 2 years I'll probably be able to, have a drink and not go down that hole,
Yeah.
or have a marijuana cigarette.
Suddenly we're all 1950s up in here.
The reefer
The
madness,
reefer man,
yes.
yeah. Well, so where and if it has changed, where has the change come for you?
um I'm stuck on like step 3, I think. the change for
Well, wait a second.
me
How have you gotten to step 3?
by going through step 2.
H-
I've
How did you do
I
step 2?
think I had my higher power or awareness of something greater than me before,
Have
but I
you
just
have
ignored
you
it.
been doing unsponsored step work?
Yeah, it's
Ooh.
shady stuff, man. It's
Ooh.
dangerous. Play with fire. Burn.
My mind's a scary place. I don't want to go there alone.
Yeah, I think that's what happened to Crowley. But anyway,
Yeah. Mm.
I definitely
Mm.
knew what was right and wrong,
Oh,
and
oh, you
that
did.
fed, or generally, I knew it was pretty bad what I was doing, not just for
Mm.
myself, but bad for others. Like, for example, I was talking to somebody earlier today. I think it was easier for me to cut out a lot of my family rather than lie to them over and over again.
I relate to that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because the cycle for me, like the difference between guilt and shame, all the guilt I was feeling, knowing what I was doing was wrong, made me feel shameful. Ashamed of who I was becoming, who I was,
Yeah.
who I was pretending to be or playing. That role was not something I wanted, everyone in or especially my loved ones to be aware of. And myself, lying to ourselves is definitely big. Us addicts, I think, suffer from that a lot, and myself
Us addicts.
particularly.
Ooh.
Addicts and alcoholics. I'm sorry, I
Us
didn't mean
addicts and
to
alcoholics.
didn't mean to exclude you guys
Ooh.
out there.
Oh,
I'm a
oh,
big
oh,
drinker
oh.
too.
How about we keep it
On me, on
on
me.
you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I definitely struggled with, admitting I was powerless for
Mm.
years. I said, "Oh, I can stop," the cliches and all that. But for me right now, I feel like it's just the consistency, remaining consistent and setting my intentions each morning, doing that step number one, holding that consistent. I still do have reservations about, future use, and
Yeah.
even the idea that maybe I can, successfully drink at dinner with my family in a year, 3 years, whatever. I shouldn't even be thinking about that right now. I'll leave it open for consideration, but
Shoulds
I'm
are
not going to
really
say maybe.
shoulds
I'm
are
going to
really
suggest to
harsh.
myself
Yeah.
that I should not, you
Well, should's a really
know,
hard word.
yeah, should and could.
Should,
Mm,
well, but specifically should. I
mm,
should do the dishes. I should get
yeah.
up in time to get to work. I should, and I can, for me, I can get into a little shame spiral,
Mm,
when I should myself. Ooh.
yeah, I
I'm
like
not the
that. You
first one to
should
say
yourself.
that. Yeah.
That's funny.
And
Mm,
and I but I mean that, there are
mm,
certain words and things and ways of thinking that, I'm learning serve me better than others. And one of those, you actually hit on it earlier, that changing the I have to do this to I get to do
mm,
this.
yeah,
That's a huge shift. I'm really glad that you
yeah,
said that and picked up on that. Because I don't always say
yeah.
that,
Remaining grateful
Yeah.
is something I struggle with too. Consistency,
Consistent, yeah.
consistently being grateful and consistently working the program.
Well, and so I don't know
Not
about
just the
you.
program, but
I like to think that I was a pretty good manipulator in my using days, which
yes.
is to say that,
Oh, I still am.
well, I think that for me, the manipulation has turned into empathy. I hope.
Mm,
Um,
yeah.
because I think, and what is the difference between that? Because I'm manipulating to get something out of somebody. I'm empathize, and I would empathize to get the to manipulate.
Manipulate. I like that.
I kind of like that word too. It's to define
Yeah.
that later. But I think now, when I'm working with somebody or working with anybody, when I'm talking to anybody, I mean, when I'm living my life, I can, I am better when I am seeing things or trying to see things through other people's eyes, and that's what the prayer of Saint Francis or the 11th step prayer in AA
I like
teaches me.
that.
And this isn't a whole rah rah AA thing, and I'm not a speaker for AA, and anonymity is a spiritual principle and all that stuff. But what I'm telling you though is that with that 11th step prayer, it says, seek not to be consoled, but to be consoling. Seek not to understand, but to, I'm sorry.
To be understood,
O
right?
divine master, grant that I may seek not so much to be consoled as to console, to be
Mm,
understood as to understand, to be loved as
mm,
to be loving. And I find that when I practice that and the beginning of the prayer and the end of the prayer, I find that particular one really resonates with me, and it's that understanding part. We've talked about this a
Yeah, you
lot.
showed that to me on my
Yeah,
first coach session with you. And
I'm sure I did.
want to be understood, not just accepted, but
I
don't
need
want to
you to
come off
understand.
negatively.
I need you to
Yeah.
understand. I need you to understand. I hear that
Oh my
so
gosh,
often.
relationships especially,
Oof.
getting into fights
Oof.
and then arguing constantly just to, sometimes you got to walk away. Friendships, relationships,
Sometimes
whatever.
I gotta walk away.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry.
Mm.
You, me,
I wasn't
yeah,
sure if you were talking to me or you.
I
Yeah.
refer to myself in the third person a lot too. Um, yeah, I've spent a lot of time alone, and that happens after a while. But
Mm.
uh, back on subject, I think that for me, like, it's so obsessive, like the need to not be like, I don't want to insult or hurt anybody's feelings, so I will argue even after they're upset. I will keep on, trying to convince them that I'm not trying to be a dick or asshole. Sorry. But yeah, it's a very, I don't know if it's my self-centeredness or my ego. Yeah, I guess it's my ego, not wanting to be viewed badly,
Ooh.
wanting
Ego.
to always be
Yeah.
seen as, this saint, which I'm
Mm.
obviously not.
Obviously not.
Hmm.
Obviously not. To
I'm
whom
not a
is that
saint.
obviously not?
Quite a lot of people, if I'm
Mm.
being honest. But
Yeah.
my family,
Do you
never held me up to be a saint. For
Mm.
example, they just want me to be happy. They don't need me to be this perfect, successful businessman or whatever.
How much time do you consider what other people think about you?
Too much,
Too
whatever
much.
that time is.
How much time is too much?
It's I don't think you should spend.
Should.
I should spend more than a few minutes
Oh,
a
there's a
day.
time limit.
Yeah, I don't. I'm not going
Mm.
to quantify it like to. I don't know how. You're making me reflect on things now that I haven't
It's
considered.
an unquantifiable,
Yeah, you shouldn't. I should
unspecified.
not
Mm.
spend too much time worrying about what other people
I
think of me.
should not spend too much time. What
Yeah,
would be
I'm shitting all over the place. I'm sorry.
what would change for you if you, instead of saying I should not spend so much time
Hmm,
on what other people think of me, into
I see where you're going.
I'm not going to worry about what other people think about me.
Yeah,
I'm going to live
it's
a
like
life of recovery and spirituality,
affirm it. Yeah, like
Uh,
do it. Just do it.
I like
You're
that.
welcome, Nike.
You're welcome. Thank you. Well, that's interesting that you kind of went where where I was thinking of going with that.
Mm,
And for me, like when people come and talk to me, like my friends, or when my friends are like people who are acquaintances, when I'm not in a necessarily
mm,
coachy relationship, I talk to people and I still, I'm like, I hear people when they say, I want to do this, and I want to do that, and I wish I had done this, and I think about all the times that I do that, and I realize how frustrated I get, when I'm doing that, and have this is Nathan, I
yeah.
can't speak for anybody, but I know that when I continue to do that to myself. I put
Mm,
myself, and I keep saying shame spiral because it's kind of where I've been in mentally the last several days, but I can put myself into a sort of I can exacerbate,
mm.
my
Yeah, make it
feelings
worse.
of inadequacy, self-doubt, and that exactly I can make
Mm,
it worse. And I realize that again, that's another one of those things that I'm learning doesn't serve me. And
yeah.
just because I know things that don't serve me
Doesn't
and
mean you're
things that
not gonna do it. Yeah,
right,
right.
I need tools.
I like when you say that. You said that a couple weeks ago. I heard you, talk about when something doesn't serve you, you need to, realize it and move on. And I didn't
Yeah.
for a long time. I kept on, and the insanity of my addictions was, yeah, what got me here. I was literally losing my mind,
Yeah.
like not able to be myself, and seeing and hearing things that weren't there. And it's very sad for my friends and my family to see that.
Well, and that can be so for me because I relate to what you're saying.
Hmm.
Um, That can be. I'm sorry. I'm trying to do
Yeah.
the this and the that
I
and
understand. You got your hands
and there.
full.
Do you see how many
Yeah.
buttons there are? Do you want?
I
I'm
don't know
sorry. I'm
how
totally
Justin
tangent here,
does
but
it.
well, I'm looking at all these things and I'm like, I just want to tweak them all. And I see that Justin's listening right now, and I'm kind of like, I just want to push all the buttons, and I just want a business all over the place. Business. Um, but you're saying, and going back to this, I mean, like it's very relatable. You know, I want to I want, and something I still struggle with. Like, I want to be held in high regard. I want people to think good things about me. And I don't want you to know all the secret pain and struggling and all the self doubt and all the things that are going on inside of me. So I will use
Yeah.
humor, sarcasm. I will isolate.
Mm.
You know, I will. I will go overboard in other projects that don't serve me, or I'll go overboard and like just it's the isolation piece. I will just sit there and get
Yeah,
sucked
that's
into.
one of the worst things for me too.
Yeah,
Because it's strange. I was talking to you or somebody about it the other day, where I lay up in bed and I think like all these negative things about me, the self doubt, all that, all the shame and guilt of the past I dwell in, and it doesn't serve me to do that. And at the same time, I'm like so used to doing it, even though I want somebody to come pull me out of there, figuratively and literally, like say,
yeah,
"Hey, where's Nick? What's up with him?" That's not, always going to happen. You have to, I have to try to involve myself as much as I can. I
yeah.
realize that there are going to be times when I need to be alone and I'm going to be in a low spot, but it's just a spot. Feelings are temporary and not, I mean, they are very much our reality. The way we
Mm.
perceive things are more real than the way things actually are on the outside. But you can always change those things. Those things will change whether you want them to or not. Oh, I like that. Yeah, change will go on around you. You can choose to grow or die or not grow, which is, I think it's been said, if you're not growing, you're dying. So,
And I mean, I believe that, except I also know that I'm still dying regardless.
yeah.
So, and kind of, all
Well,
right.
you've hit the climb. Yeah, you're on your way down. I'm just
Yeah, right.
kidding.
Brian Merritt, and that's why I put this up here earlier. He had said, "It's not nice to judge," and I like that
Yeah.
because it kind of goes to what you're talking about for me. One of the issues I sometimes have with being able to reach out to people I know care about me and ask for help is that I'm a judgmental sob, and mm, I'm gonna stop myself right there.
I don't
Moses.
think your mom liked that. Yeah,
Well,
just gonna
no,
say
no, 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 no. Moses just came into my mind right
that.
there,
Uh-oh.
and the reason I say that is because y'all listening out in the world there, Moses was on the show a couple weeks ago.
Oh, okay, so they know Moses. All right.
Well, I mean,
Sort of. Some.
who knows?
Yeah.
But Moses he's a CSAC. He's a certified substance abuse counselor, and more importantly, at least to me, is that he has lived experience of decades of sobriety and
Yeah,
decades
almost 40
of
years,
using.
right? It's
And
crazy.
so when I talk to Moses, he's seen some shit. He's
Mhm.
been through some shit. He's on the other side. And the mother,
Yeah.
the guy still suits up and shoots,
Don't say that. Come on.
suits up
You're
and
triggering
shows
people.
up to help the next
Yeah.
sick and suffering. And I think that is absolutely incredible. And so
Mm.
one of the things that he taught me when I first got here, I would walk around and I would continue to call myself an asshole. It's like, oh, I'm an
Yeah.
asshole, blah, 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 and dismiss everything I did after that is just as a result of me
Yeah.
being an asshole. And he suggested to me something very simple. Do you know what he suggested to
Why
me?
don't you stop calling yourself an asshole, Nathan?
Well, I think it was a little more
Something like that.
gentle.
Oh.
Like, what would happen if you stopped
Okay.
calling yourself
Yeah.
an
The way
asshole?
Moses does.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a more Moses, and I
Mhm.
actually prefer that
Yeah.
because when you say something to me like the way you just
Yeah.
did, I'm about
I
to be
like to be
defiant.
blunt and
Yeah.
abrupt.
And I need to be
And that's my
I
sarcasm.
need to be
Mhm.
manipulated. But what do you think happened as a result of that change? Or why would he suggest that? Because he didn't explain it.
Oh, he didn't?
No.
Well, I'm not going to, but I'll say
No.
for myself, self actualization, self
Ooh.
prophecy, whatever it's called. There's a few different names. I think that mean generally the same thing, which is try to manifest a positive future for yourself. Don't dwell on like negative stuff. Like if I think that I'm an asshole all the time, then I'll probably act like an asshole. If I'm told that I'm an asshole or a loser, I'll
Mm.
probably feel that way and continue to feel that way.
If I continue to tell myself that I'm an asshole,
Mm.
I can absolutely look back at years of evidence that you could make the conclusion that this guy's an asshole.
But that was in the past, Nathan.
But there's a shift in thinking to Nathan because it took, I thought about it and I'm like, wow, what the heck's the difference? And I said to myself, well, what if I'm a guy who did asshole things?
Mm,
And the shift for me there is that I'm a guy. I then have the choice,
mhm.
to continue to do asshole things and to demonstrate my
Yeah.
assholicness, or I can do good things.
As holiness. I like that.
Asshole, yeah, right.
Holiness.
Um, we're definitely getting blooped and censored.
Oh, I'm
Blooped,
sorry.
bleeped. No,
Bleep, bloopers.
no, we're not doing anything.
Something like
But
that.
it was a shift in thinking, kind of like the I have to shift for me.
Hmm.
And when I realized that it's the stories that I'm telling myself about myself that are the stories that are destroying me, um, that got me out of the victimhood
Yeah.
a lot. Continues to get me out of that
Mm,
victimization, that I'm the victim. And for me, because I suffer with entitlement, arrogance, ego. If anything's ever going to get me, it's going to be my ego. And I worry about that. I mean, I work on that, and I think about that, and I consider that, and I check my ego. I try to check my ego with people I care about. And going back to the judgmental comment, the reason I sometimes have an issue getting help from people is because my little judgmental mind has looked at people and thought some of the most insane, jerky, asshole things. And I've thought these things about
mm.
other people. Sometimes I've even said those things to other people about the person. And man,
Little
man, do I
gossip
really,
girl over
ooh,
here.
gossip,
Mm.
right? Is that what you're saying?
Gossip girl.
Gossip.
Yeah. Name
Yeah.
of the show.
And it's like, wait a second. Is it true? Yeah, it probably is a little honest. I mean, I'm certainly being honest with my feelings. Is it necessary? Absolutely not. Is it kind? No, not at all. And then I sit there and I'll get into a shame spiral. Well, I can't talk to this person because I thought this about this person and said something, 3 months ago. And I realized that kind of, first of all, doing it in the first place for me, talking and judging and getting too involved in trying to fix everything, manage and control everything else doesn't serve me. And then coming back to that point where I'm feeling the shame of having done that in the past, but I haven't actually done a 10th step or a ninth step, to fix that with the person, whether I need to or not, whether my 10th step or my ninth step is actually just living,
Mm.
the living the solution. What I'm doing then is not asking for help from the people I need help from, because I think I have done them wrong in the past or something silly.
Yeah, and that
And
you said it in the past. I
mm,
mean, each
mm,
day is a new leaf, right?
a new
You get to
leaf.
change and be a new person every day, or try to be a better person. Hopefully, sometimes I think that I get a little bit hung up. Like, yeah, I definitely manifest some negative outcomes for myself just by putting setting myself up for failure.
Managing negative out. What did you say?
Manifesting,
Manifesting negative
yeah. Hmm.
outcomes for yourself.
Expectations, yeah.
Hmm.
Hmm. Being too hard. I'm my own worst critic.
Mm.
Very hard on myself.
It's so funny. We've talked about setting intentions, daily intentions, and I'll come back to, because I want to ask about that for you and how that's working. But I had a phone call, well, with one of my colleagues, Matthew Connor, downstairs, and he called up. He was asking about. I'm not really sure why he called me, but he was calling to ask me something about, about an event we've got coming up, and he asked me about that, and as with anything, anything that I do, um, my feelings of inadequacy, self-doubt, all that stuff can bubble up to the surface and start to infect how
Mm,
I respond to the work that's in front of me. And instead of getting to the solution faster, I get stuck in this resentment over here, or I get frustrated with this person. It's all stupid stuff, right? It's all stupid.
unnecessary, maybe is a better word.
Unnecessary.
Yeah. Going
and
back
a-
to your.
and I have to, right. And so, and sometimes, sometimes I have to step back and just sort of smile, and I do that better and better. But he's one of those people that helps me get to that faster. And I love that because there are people in my life that I'll sit there and I'll go into,
Mm,
I can sit there and whine
I
and
do the
bitch and
same
moan,
thing.
and it's like, and I can go to to one person over here and we could just spend hours venting.
Yeah.
That venting, we Karen and I had a conversation about this yesterday. Venting and what that means. I'm like, you know what? That's starting to not serve me. I don't know that
Mm.
it ever did. It probably served me a little bit, but what is venting? Really,
Letting out steam. You
venting.
gotta let out the heat. You don't want to overheat.
Well, I don't, but I want to get faster into the solution,
Mm.
and it's like, and too often, if I'm venting to the wrong person,
Ah, yeah.
then it
Mm.
becomes a big bitch fest, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm recognizing that because I can't.
Mm.
And it was actually it was the meeting, and again. It was the 12-step fellowship meeting we were in yesterday, and it was one of the people who shared, and without putting them out there, the person was sharing, and I recognized that her attraction to positive people. I recognize that I have a propensity to attract my negativity will
Mm.
be
Yeah.
attracted to others' negativity, just as my positivity will be attracted to other positivity. And I'm like, wait a second, what is serving me more? What is actually
Mhm.
serving me better? I'm still going to have these feelings, of inadequacy, of self doubt, of resentments and frustrations. And do I go and talk to the person who's going to not only co-sign it, but also
Mhm.
throw on more fuel? Or do I go to
Yeah.
somebody like Matthew Connor, who's going to help me twist that
Mm.
and see? Because he's the first person who told me I get to do things and I don't have to
Yeah.
do
Well, you
things.
mentioned
Yeah.
Karen, and somebody in the meeting earlier said something that Karen reminded me of the first time she led a group with us. Or no, it was just a gratitude check where I said, I'm not as negative as I thought I'd be. And somebody said that in a meeting earlier, but they did distinguish between being less negative and being more positive. But Karen, yeah, helped me twist that. I don't necessarily feel like I'm not as negative as I'd be. I feel more positive than I expected I would be.
Mm.
And that, yeah, like the twist there is pretty crucial.
Well, and there's a phrase for that. We can't think ourselves into good action. Ooh, we can't think ourselves into better action,
Hmm.
but we can't. Oh gosh, I'm struggling
It's
here.
it's like
We
the
can't think
intention
our
kind of
way.
action thing.
Yeah, we
Mm.
can't think our way into positivity, but we can act. We can't think our way into action, but we can action. We can act our way into thinking. Something. Somebody.
I'm getting
There's
confused.
nobody watching right now. Nobody's gonna sit there and put that. Anyway, we. It's the old act as if. I don't know. I'm not
I get what you're
feeling
saying.
positive right now. Example, I'm not thinking positively right now. However, I can act as if I'm thinking positively, and that will get me to being positive faster than me thinking about being negative and not being positive.
Yeah.
And it's well, I am totally not
Well, we
articulating
we
that tool very
waste a
well,
lot
am
of
I?
time on words and details, right?
Yeah,
When we're just trying to, sum up a feeling or an action.
yeah,
But yeah, verbs are generally more effective than adjectives, and trying to intend for something, trying,
trying.
doing the
Yeah,
difference there.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm I'm trying to do better.
Mm.
I'm trying. No, don't try to do better. Do
Just do.
better.
Yeah.
It's like, do you know how to be a good person?
I don't know.
Mm,
I try.
mm. Somebody asked me that once, and I have a lot
Mm.
more thinking on this now than I did then, because of course I'll overthink the hell out of just, are you a good person or not? And the simple answer for, do you know how to be a good person, is to do good things.
Mm.
And I'm like, wow, boom, mind blown. Which goes back to like when I talk about purpose and my sense of purpose, and the woman who put that little spark in my brain. She was shared in a meeting. I don't even know who she is, but decades of sobriety, and she shared in a meeting, and she talked about her business and what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now, like the way you do a share in a fellowship meeting. And she got to the end, and she's like, well, maybe my purpose is to be more loving. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can do that.
Yeah.
And I constantly go back to that because it was such a, these are these pivotal moments in my early recovery that I'm constantly going back
Mm.
to, that I know serve me. you know and there are things that come up, like, how do you be a good person, do good things. I'm recognizing as I'm saying it, mm, that doesn't really serve me as well as it used to, because there's so many consequences to
Mm,
what good is and who thinks good is this and bad. And like,
yeah, very
do I want to be,
subjective.
there's some subjectivity there, subjectivity. And well, that's a whole rabbit hole.
Yeah,
And
there's a lot
we,
of
we,
those
we have
that come up.
only a few more minutes left here, but I think right now though, you have been here for 40 days,
40 days and 40 nights, something like that.
something like that. How do you feel?
Oh man, that's a good question. I feel good, and Rob's gonna ask me to, expand on that
Because
because
good's not a feeling.
good isn't. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just a adjective. I guess I feel more positive than I thought I would. I really do feel like things are coming back. I'm remembering a lot of my brain is like, you know, getting clean, expelling a lot of the bad stuff in there that is kind of like bogging me down and keeping me negative and making it hard for me to articulate the way I'm trying to, you know,
Mm.
like right now, I feel like in a month or two, I'm going to be much better or going to express how I feel much easier. I struggled with that in meetings, still to this day. Like, I feel like I'm not saying what I mean to say. And I feel like
Mm.
I'm not really I'm not really the way I'm supposed to be, if that makes sense. Right?
Well, okay. So may I ask you a question?
You may.
I'm going to anyway. So,
Yeah.
um, when you're struggling to articulate what you think or what you're trying to say, and you don't know quite what to say or how to say, what's a tool that you can use, perhaps use to relieve you from the burden of having to say what you feel or what you're thinking?
I
This
don't
is a
know.
loaded one.
Dictionary?
Probably a lot of things.
Thesaurus?
A thesaurus.
Not the dinosaur. Sounds like
Does sound like a dinosaur.
I don't know. I mean, I try not to really, think about that, I guess. I'm not concerned with how, I'm being perceived as much as how I feel.
Well, okay.
I'm trying to focus on just feeling better and staying clean one day at a time.
Well, all right. So
I don't know the answer
before
to
you
your
start
question.
before you start throwing out
Tell me,
yeah,
Nathan, what is the answer to that?
there's no answer
Mm.
necessarily that I can give you. I want to see what you've been paying attention to over the last 40 days.
Well, see, now that's kind of what I was saying. I can't retain my short-term memory is shot, and I even during this little podcast, I lost at least like
Little
12 little like
podcast,
I mean an hour of time, an
award-winning
hour
recovery.
stop, an hour of
Did you like how
time.
I bristled
There's
at
been
that?
like so many things that I've like caught that you were saying that I would like to expand on, but just go in one ear and out the other, and it
That's
bothers me.
everybody does that
Yeah.
with me. It's okay.
Well, yeah, you talk a lot, but I mean in general, I think that yeah, it's nice to feel like my myself is the way I'd like it to be
So what was
without.
my
I
question
don't
here?
even remember.
Yeah. So
Something about just go.
when we don't know how to express our feelings,
Hmm.
what is a tool, or what are tools that we can utilize so that we can either better express our feelings or get into a better frame of mind? That's probably the better way of asking the question.
I don't know, the steps. Like,
You keep vaguely referencing the steps.
yeah, the 12
Yeah.
steps of
Yeah.
Narcotics
That's
Anonymous.
another hour of conversation that I would like to have
Mm,
with you, but we'll do that offline because it's going to be
we
too
can do
long. But
another coach
but
session.
let's
Okay.
go. Let's answer the question.
Mm,
What is recovery? What does recovery teach you to do in those situations? Hmm.
Keep it on me and
Keep
sort
it
of
on.
just share my experience. I'm sorry, keep it on myself and share,
Yeah.
just get it out.
Get it out. But if I don't know how to articulate what I'm feeling, you know,
You just answer it. You're losing me. I'm not going to answer it.
well, so something for me, and something that I feel is something that gets taught around here. By the way, these little blinking lights right here makes me feel like I got a phone somewhere to answer. It's like, in like a radio program, which has always been a fantasy of mine. So like I'm doing my Frasier. Hey mom, if you're watching right now, this is me doing Frasier. Um, if I don't know what I'm feeling, if I can't articulate how I'm feeling, and I want to get out of my own head, that's essentially what I want to do, right? I want to get out of my own head. Recovery teaches me a few things. It teaches me to go to a meeting, to be of service to that meeting, find somebody who is going through something and help somebody, and teaches me to get out of self to help self. And I like that because there are certain things that I specifically do, me, Nathan, that I'll do, when I really am completely lost. I clean. I'm a fairly neat, clean person
Yeah.
anyway, but I will clean when I don't know what to do, and that may not necessarily be in service to everybody, but certainly to my house,
Yeah.
and certainly to my people who
I
come to my
find that
office.
helpful for organizing
Mhm.
my thoughts and.
But I also
Mm.
cook. I haven't done a lot of cooking lately, and that's actually been kind of partially a frustration of mine.
Hmm.
And I love to cook and bring food over to other people and just share a meal because everybody needs to eat. Everybody.
Yes.
And it's like there are certain things that are the most, we get right down to those base
Yeah. Base
needs. You talk
necessities.
base necessity, we get to Maslow's right at the bottom of the
Schoolhouse
hierarchy.
Rock.
It's something like that.
Schoolhouse.
And
Yeah.
food, shelter,
Mm.
clothing, these things, like, I can do that. I can feed somebody. If I don't know what to do, I know that I can do that, and I can at least find some purpose.
Foundation.
I can at
Mm.
least help somebody and feel like I'm making a contribution to the world, and that often will
Ooh.
help me to find what it is that I can't articulate and why. And often I find that what was bogging me down is really not as big of a deal as I think it is.
Mm.
In fact, all the time that I do that, I realize that what is bogging me
Yeah.
down is not as big a deal as what I think it is. So I invite you to investigate what you think that might mean for you. And anybody listening and want to throw in something, send it and put in the comments.
Yeah.
Um,
Remaining consistent with that.
consistent.
Try to remember. We have a finite time here, and that little problem or big problem in your head is really just a little momentary, uh,
Mm.
momentary part of your life. Yeah.
Well, we blew through an hour quick.
That was pretty
It
quick.
was pretty quick.
Yes.
And did you get through your list?
Oh no, I didn't look at it. It's down
No.
there.
Yeah,
No, I didn't get to a lot
didn't
of
need it,
that.
huh?
No, I mean, I maybe wanted to touch on a few of those things. Let me look at it.
All right, why don't you do that? Get your list. See if there's anything you want to throw in here and talk about real quick. By the way, I love that notebook.
Yeah, me too. I use it a lot.
If you can't
Pocket
see it right now, it's like a
notebook.
pocket-sized composite cosmopolitan book,
Yeah,
composition book.
not knowing things is okay.
Not knowing things is okay.
Yeah,
Say more on that.
not knowing what tomorrow holds. I don't have to
Ooh,
know everything.
ooh,
Quote Socrates, the great. I'm the
mm.
wisest man, for I know that I know nothing. Or really, he knew a lot, but it was
He wouldn't have said that in English,
nothing
though.
compared to what is out there. That it's okay not to know, like the answer to every question and what tomorrow is gonna hold for you or next week.
Okay.
I think I touched on that ambiguity and being sort
Mm.
of open.
Okay.
Yeah.
What
Free
else?
will is something I don't think we have time for. Free will, predestination, all that good stuff, fate.
Yeah. Page
But I don't
417
know,
covers
so
that for me.
I'm okay with not knowing that. Yeah.
Okay.
I find that, you know, I've talked about this with Chris Schaefer, where somebody he knows said that it's futile to try to name or know a higher power for this guy,
Mm.
and he's okay with that. He'll find out when he dies, and I think that's I'll quote a Bowie song. Yeah, knowledge comes with death's release. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, quicksand.
He
That's a
he
good one.
he knows now whether that's true or not,
Yeah.
having
Tell you if I
experienced
can't tell you
death.
what you ought to know, then I'll tell you all about it on the next Bardo. I think Bardo is a Buddhist phrase for the next stage of life
Oh,
or
see, I was
heaven.
thinking Bridget, but
Bridget.
Bridget Bardot.
Bridget Bardo. Oh yeah,
Oh gosh.
I know that name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, any last thoughts? Before we
Uh,
land this plane?
I'll let you conclude. Yeah.
Oh,
Why don't you
you're
tie
gonna
it up?
let
I'll
me
let you.
conclude.
Yeah.
Oh, how
Well,
kind of
maybe,
you!
maybe,
How
maybe.
kind of you!
Uh, uh, yeah, I guess it doesn't matter which came first, chicken or the egg. God speaks to me through all things.
Usually for me, eggs come first because I'll eat those in the morning for breakfast, and then I'll have a piece of chicken in the evening for
Yeah,
dinner.
very funny.
Yeah.
Very funny.
So that's really all I need to know about that.
That's a good ending point. Yeah, you should end on that.
On that note, let me tell you all. Hey, listen to our fantastic guest today,
Thank you for having me.
Nick O. Thank you
Nico.
so much for joining us today. Hey, listen, for those of you out here, first of all, I'm pretty sure that I'm gonna do this correctly when I turn off the machine here. So hopefully I don't screw up anything. But I do want to tell you tomorrow we have a special 9:30 a.m. Eastern time podcast, Getting the Herd, with filmmaker Greg Williams. We will be discussing his new feature documentary film, Tipping the Pain Scale, which we will be hosting, which the Virginia Association of Recovery Residences is hosting a free sneak preview of that on Monday, November 22nd at the Henrico Theater at 5:30 p.m. If you're interested in that, go to the Facebook website, McShin's Facebook site, and you can find the event, and you have to sign up and get the free tickets. As there's a finite amount of seats. Tipping the Pain Scale. If you're interested, this is a documentary film. It is a feature-length film. It is an absolutely incredible, and I'll just be real short and brief about this because I want you to come and see it, but also I want you to think about, the last 18, 19 months that we've been experiencing here in the world, and this film coming through that period and really digging in deep with a few people who've done some incredible work to get into the solution and to fix some of the systemic broken pieces of how we're dealing with the addiction epidemic here in the United States. So don't want to miss that. You certainly don't want to listen to Greg tomorrow. He can articulate that much better than I can.
He's an award-winning.
He is, in fact, an award-winning filmmaker. He is also the creator of The Anonymous People. One of the filmmakers of The Anonymous People. I want to tell you also, it has been an incredible week of Getting the Herd podcast. This week we had a New York Times best-selling author. That is incredible.
An award-winning filmmaker tomorrow.
And an award-winning filmmaker tomorrow. We had a social worker on the show yesterday. She was who just wrote a book. Her first book.
She deserves an award.
She just wrote she wrote her first book. And she's working on her second book now. She's a woman in long-term recovery, and I know it was a great show yesterday. If you missed it, last night's show at 6 p.m., make sure you find it on YouTube or go to Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, et cetera, and listen to that one. It was a really good show. And then I want to tell you, November 30th at 7:30 p.m., that's a Tuesday, November 30th at 7:30 p.m., John Shinholzer and Carol McDade, the Shin and the Mick and the Shin of McShin, are getting together with me, and we're going to talk to Representative Abigail Spanberger, who represents Virginia's 7th District in the United States Congress. She's going to be here to talk about her bill, which will permanently fund a 10% set aside for recovery support services in the federal budget. This is extremely important. This is an absolute historic moment. For the first time, we have a White House and a Congress that are working to actually get into some recovery solutions, but beyond just the quick treatment and putting people in jail. So this is an historic opportunity to get something right for once. I do want to tell you also that, go to the Facebook page to get the event for the Tipping the Pain Scale. What else am I missing here? I feel like I'm forgetting something, Nick. It's that existential dread and that sarcasm coming from you that I can read. And
I always forget something.
Yeah. Anyway, listen, have a good night. We'll catch you tomorrow. And I'm going to push a few buttons and hopefully turn this down the right way. Thank you all for participating. And thank you for being here, Nick.
Yeah, thank you. I enjoyed it. I'll have to do it again. Maybe.
Maybe?
I get to do it again.
Maybe.
Hopefully.
Maybe.
I decide that.